On today's show, we are interviewing Joshua Feuerstein about why we can be controlled when we are afraid and why you must always stand on the side of truth. That's right, folks. On today's show, Joshua Feuerstein shares why people that are afraid will gladly trade their liberties for safety, and why you must always choose to stand on the side of truth, and why if God is for you, who can be against you? All this and more on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Cutting Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm a dive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C&Z up on your radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, you are in for a laser show of blunt reality. We're going to interview an entrepreneur here who has a lot of things to say that you probably want to say, but you're not going to say because you are not Joshua. Joshua, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Brother, I can already tell it's going to be an absolutely incredible time. Feeling good, feeling phenomenal, and ready to dive in.
Now, let's clear up the controversy here. People want to know, how do you pronounce your last name? People are mispronouncing it all over the country.
Well, when I was young, people called me Fatstein, Frankenstein, but it's Feuerstein.
Feuerstein. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
Feuerstein, we'll start there. Mr. Feuerstein, what are your thoughts about the COVID-19 fear?
Well, I think that it's unsubstantiated. Obviously, we're now seeing with the CDC, they're beginning to come back and they're beginning to backpedal on a lot of their numbers. Now, I could go into how I think it's politically motivated, obviously, but it's interesting when you start looking at what took place at the very beginning of this whole pandemic. It's pretty interesting to me that they're telling us millions and millions of people are going to die, right? I mean, this is going to be the worst thing that we have ever seen. Yet, I think that people, if they're intelligent, would begin to look back and see that every 2 years around election time, whether it's your off season for the presidential election or not, but we've had swine flu, bird flu, there's been every sort of pandemic possible. Really, I think that people just need to understand that we are controlled when we're afraid. I mean, even go back to 2001, and we just celebrated the 19th year of September 11th that we were commemorating this past week. And if you think right after 2001, September 11th, we passed the Patriot Act, which to me was a egregious violation of the Constitution. But yeah, man, I think what it boils down to is as long as people are afraid, they will trade their liberties for safety. And as the founding fathers said, if you'll do that, you don't deserve either one.
So you're saying that when people are afraid, they will trade their liberties for safety? Am I hearing you correct?
Yes, sir.
So why, I guess people tell me all the time, they say, Clay, it's like you're in a different world where you don't care what people think, and therefore you're able to state these things on your show. But I'm a teacher, I can't say that. You know, I'm a business guy, I can't say that. I'm a football coach, I can't say that. I'm a firefighter, I can't say that. Give us a look into your background a little bit, because I think part of your background as an entrepreneur is what allows you to objectively look at things, because everybody who's been an entrepreneur has faced fear, has faced countless rejection, looked it in the face, and moved on. But I think a lot of people hide from fear. They want to do anything possible to avoid failing in their business, failing in their job, failing when they ask the girl on a date. People just are so afraid of being afraid. Give us your background, because I love your mind, but I want the listeners to understand who you are as a person.
Well, so I was actually born and raised in California, but something interesting, around the age of 4, I developed a horrific stutter. I literally sounded like an over-anxious rap DJ when I tried to talk. And so I naturally had to kind of form thick skin because I was constantly picked on. But I was raised in a house with a mother and father who dared to defy political correctness and told us that ultimately, now me as a Christian, they ingrained in us at a young age that there would come a time that we would have to choose whether we would be politically correct or biblically correct. And so for me,
wow, that's a loud background noise there. It sounds like when you started talking about political correctness, it sounded like the studio exploded there. Let's see what that sound is. Devin, did you figure out what that is over there? Was that an outburst from the Democrats?
I think it was the Minotaur got out.
Oh, nice. Are we good now?
Yeah, we put him back in the closet. We're good.
Okay, well, sorry about that. When you started talking about political correctness, I think the Democrats launched an all-out war in the studio here. Okay, so continue, sir.
So I learned at a very young age that you have to stand up for what's right. For that, you always have to stand on the side of truth. And for me as a Christian, I've always said that if you stand with God, it doesn't matter if the world's against you, because if God's for you, then He's more than the world against you. But I've always taken that ideological approach towards truth, is I would rather stand on the right side of history than fit in with everybody that is particularly popular. And I think that that's really the problem now. In fact, as you were saying that earlier about coaches and teachers and people that are constantly in fear of speaking their mind.
Yes.
The problem is as long as we allow the government or society or Hollywood to dictate to us what we can and can't talk about, like that we can or can't, they're always telling us what? Don't talk about politics or don't talk about religion. Well, here's the problem with that, is if we have this democracy and we have this republic that thrives on the free exchange of ideas, this is why I love going on shows with liberals, okay? Is because I always tell people, I'll go on a show with a liberal because I want an exchange of ideas, because as we know, capitalism, entrepreneurship, the best idea always rises to the top, right?
Yep.
But the problem is that if they control speech, then what ends up happening is the best idea does not rise to the top because it's never even put out there. And so I'm a big believer that we need civil discourse, meaning that you and I may disagree vehemently on something, but I should be able to be mature enough to separate the individual from the ideology. And if I can do that and separate the individual from the ideology, that means you and I can disagree on something, but that we can still enjoy each other's company and respect each other.
So what do you do for a living now? Like, what business are you involved in?
Well, it's funny because I used to be a pastor. I used to pastor a church, and then started doing videos. Those videos began going viral. Long story short, did a little over 4 billion video views. Partway through that, I began to see that there was a business. I started getting approached by a lot of companies and, politicians, entrepreneurs and stuff that came to me and said, hey, we need your brains on how to make stuff go viral, because going viral is not an accident. I mean, maybe once, but definitely not 2 or 3 or 100 times. And so ended up forming a business out of it, ended up partnering up with some people that were really great on the ad side of it. And we ended up making a company out of it and creating a lot of viral content and viral ads.
What's the name of your company if people want to look you up there?
So the one that we're actually launching right now is called Ad Monster. The domain is going to be ad.monster. It's going to be going live here in the next couple of weeks. Beautiful thing is my non-compete with the last company that I sold is officially up, which means that now I'm back on the market.
Ad Monster. How do we know it doesn't suck?
Well, that's interesting. So how familiar would your audience be with digital advertising in general?
I would say the vast majority of our listeners are running ads on Google. They're running retargeting ads. They're running social media ads. As far as click funnels and extreme geo-targeting, that's probably where you lose people.
Okay, so I think that one of the things, and it surprises me because I've actually sat in boardrooms with some of the, we're talking huge companies.
Yeah.
And even the people at the top don't understand, number one, the importance of data and how data can be used to market. So one thing that everyone has to understand about their phone, their iPad, anything, is that device that you have has either a device ID or an IP address. Now, the beautiful thing about that, from a marketing standpoint, is that IP address is connected to about 3 million pages of data on each and every person. In fact, your IP address is connected to your device ID. So meaning that if you take an action on your computer, it's synced with everything that's taking place on your cell phone, and all of that data is aggregated. Now, the really cool thing about that is that you're able to take that sort of data and hyper target particular audiences. So it's not just about typing something in on the back end of maybe a Google ad platform, but I would challenge, number one, all of your listeners, and you'd be surprised at how many people don't have their website pixeled. And I'm sure that you know what a pixel is, but maybe the 10-second explanation.
Yeah.
It's a little piece of code on a website that's able to capture the IP address of every person that comes to your site. You can build custom lookalike audiences. You can do all of this incredible stuff. But the one thing that I want to say is this, is when it comes to creating an ad that has a high ROI, okay, or we call it ROAS, return on ad spend. It's simply this. It comes down to the creative, okay? The way that Facebook and all these different ad platforms are going is the pixels getting smarter and smarter. So people are going to be able to just type in the industry that they're in. They may not even need to do that because Facebook and all this stuff, they figured your audience out. Now it's going to come down to who has the most creative video. So you probably saw a video that I did recently for a guy that went #1 on Wall Street Journal for his particular book. And his book video that we did was not your typical ad. It was actually a video of him showing up. It was all staged, but it was a video that showed him showing up to a house. He takes out a golf club of a guy that's applied to be mentored by him and stuff. He smashes the Xbox, smashes the TV, hands him a book and says, "You need to read this. Stop wasting time on Pornhub and all this other stuff." Well, that video organically did like 1 million views.
Wow.
Okay. But when we ran it as an ad, we were getting multiple views for a penny. So just imagine when you come up with creativity that's able to grab people up front,
Yep.
it lowers your ad costs drastically.
Now, we have we've kind of a town hall in the studio here of some great people. One guy, he started a phenomenal company called Tip Top Canine. It's a dog training franchise. And then we have an attorney by the name of James. James is an attorney from Manhattan. And we're going to go rapid fire, okay? So we're going to hit you. It's like 60 seconds per question, okay? All things about digital advertising, about anything they want to ask you about digital advertising, online marketing, perhaps COVID-19, or maybe even tips for maintaining a beautiful beard like you're doing right there. So, Ryan, I'll go with you first here. You guys advertise with tiptopcanine.com.
Yes.
The company's doing well. There's how many locations open right now?
We got 11 locations right now.
11 locations. Each month, each location is setting records. It seems like it's just growing and growing and growing.
They have.
So what questions would you have for today's guest?
Well, so our target market, we're really looking at around 35 to 55. And I get a lot of our locations, they're constantly like, hey, we want to do more on like actively push on like the Twitter and Instagram. But so far we've stayed more on Facebook as far and Google ads. What would be your thoughts about that?
So you're definitely right when you're talking Facebook. If you're talking about that age demographic, you're not talking Instagram, and you're definitely like when it comes to Twitter, you're more talking your politicians, sports stars, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that I would actually encourage you to do is maybe try LinkedIn, because on LinkedIn specifically, you're dealing with a demographic that is usually a little bit higher net worth. And there's a lot of cool tools out there, including one called Connected that you can actually use that allows you to target specific industries. It's actually interesting. My grandmother bought is it a Malinois?
Yeah,
Right?
Belgian Malinois.
Whoa.
Yeah. So about $50,000 or $60,000, I think she paid to have this thing
wow.
trained.
Yeah.
And then she ended up giving it away to her sister.
She spent over $50,000 on a dog.
Yep.
Did she bring it over? Was it imported or from like a protection trainer, or how'd that go?
Yeah, it came from a company. I just know that she
Nice.
was really, really proud of it. And then she got it. Unfortunately, didn't work out. But I do remember she was feeding it like a pound a meal of like pure chicken, and that's all it ate. Was just chicken.
Wild.
I can't even believe that someone spends that much money on a dog.
Oh, they do.
I
do.
will.
People spend tons of money on dogs. It's just like their children,
But
man.
so let me throw this out there, okay? Is to me, when I'm looking in the consumer's mind when it comes to dogs, people that want security, okay, like me, there's nothing more valuable than my wife and kids. Unfortunately, because of a lot of my Facebook videos, when you amass 4 billion views and you love that guy right there, okay,
President Trump.
president ever,
Yeah.
okay, you get a lot of threats, and so for me, if I were you, your one selling point to me would be this: an alarm system just tells you that there's a bad guy there. A dog actually bites back. An alarm system don't bite nobody.
Now, James, we have time for one more question on today's show here. Again, we got to keep it coming fast and furious because today is quite an epic show day. We have so many great guests on today's show. A lot of energy we're putting in today's show. And Joshua, he's out there trying to save America while growing a company. His non-compete is over. He's ready to go. What question would you have for Josh?
Okay, Josh, nice to meet you. My name is James DeCristofaro. Clay and I and some others have filed a lawsuit against the mayor of Tulsa, the city council members, the city of Tulsa, and the Department of Health, and Bruce Dart, who is the head of the Department of Health for the city of Tulsa. Now, I heard you mention earlier that the CDC has now come out with new numbers where it's actually 6% of the deaths that were attributable solely to COVID. Now,
right.
The question that I have for you is that, you seem like a digital marketing whiz, and Clay and I have been, trying tirelessly podcast after podcast to get people to file these sorts of lawsuits all over the country. Would you be willing to kind of team up with us and use your expertise to kind of spread the word? So that we can get all
a hard
these people
ask.
together?
1,000,000%.
There we go. Mega points all around, right, Clay?
God bless you, Patriots. God bless you guys for being strong enough and bold enough and having the, how would I say on a G-rated show, the testicular fortitude. Those unconstitutional mandates.
Yeah. So Josh, and so we just upped the ante today because we filed it last month, and then they filed a motion to dismiss. I don't want to get into the details. We don't have the crazy details because we don't have that much time, as Clay mentioned. But we upped the ante today by going after these individuals from a personal liability perspective under this code 19. It's 48 USC 1983, and it says that, quote, every person who, under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or the District of Columbia, subjects or causes to be subjected any citizen of the United States or other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the other party injured in an action at law, suit in equity, or other proper proceeding for redress. So these guys have to shape up, otherwise we're going to go after everybody that's complicit.
Which is exactly why when I walk into a store, this beautiful face right here has yet to put on a mask. You want to know why? When I walk into a store, if they're bold and brave enough to come up to me, I look at the manager of the store and I say, listen, Bob, here's the reality. I'm sure you've busted your rear building a little nest egg for you and your family, and I'm sure you're a really, really, really good guy. But Bob, let me tell you something. Not only would I sue the chain, which they're not that concerned about, but what happens when I sue you personally? And you know that I've got a lot of, I look like the kind of guy that has a lot of lawyers, right? And Bob's sitting there and I'm like, Bob, I'm sure you're a great guy, but I'm not the guy you want to pick a fight with. So if you want to keep that nest egg for your family, and I want you to, Bob, then just let me walk around and get my produce and I'll be gone. And you know what Bob does? Have a nice day, sir. And he walks back in the back. I think that this needs to start happening more, because when people start realizing that they, as individuals, it's one thing for me to walk into Sprouts and tell Sprouts that I'm going to sue their grocery store. It's another thing when Bob, the manager, realizes I'm going to sue him. Okay? And I think that more Americans need to start standing up and doing this. I applaud you guys, and I'll be honest with you. This is my first time being on Thrive Time, hearing about Thrive Time. But Thrive Time, ladies and gentlemen, is one of my new favorite shows.
There we go.
Brother, I appreciate you so much for being on today's show. And if people want to learn more about you, what is the website? Where can people find out more about what you're working on?
Well, here's the deal. Facebook just deleted 2.6 million followers, unpublished my page, and put me on the list of dangerous individuals.
Ooh, nice.
So don't go to Facebook, because my page is no longer there. I'm still on Instagram, and just look for the verified one, the blue check mark. There's a lot of fakes and phonies out there, but you can always find me on Instagram, or if you're interested in marketing, just hit me up at joshua@ad.monster.
Joshua@ad.monster. All right. And again, and just so we're clear, on Instagram, what do they need to look up to find you on Instagram?
Joshua Feuerstein.
And again, that's spelled Feuerstein. Joshua Feuerstein.
Correcto mundo.
Brother, I appreciate you so much. If I ever run into you in an alley somewhere, I'm already scared, and I appreciate you for being here. You're a great American, and I appreciate you for boldly sharing the truth.
I just want to say this one time, Clay, okay? I told Melania the other day, I said, Melania, my favorite show, Thrive Time. Great guys, great guys.
All right, hey, you take care, brother. I appreciate you. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!